guys, Dorothy here with Done by Dorothy, and we are here today to do our covers for our 25 Days of Christmas Ephemera. Again, like, comment, subscribe. We're going to jump into this so this doesn't take as long. I've cut my covers down to 6 by 9, and my spine is 2 inches by 9 inches. So that's what your measurements need to be. You can make that out of a cereal box. I cut mine out of chipboard. This is actually an older chipboard that I used. And now I'm using my tape. And I'm going to lay it on there. And hold on, in a minute I'll tell you what kind of tape this is. Let me get this cut. If I can get it cut without sticking it to everything, because it's super sticky. Ah, there we go. So I'm going to... And I'm doing this on, this is a Fisker's cutting mat. It's really nice because as long as you don't push that tape down on it, it doesn't stick really hard. I'm going to use my bone folder and I'm going to burnish this onto my cover just so I get a lot of really good impact on it. A lot of good contact. Okay, I'm using this tape. It actually has, let me see if I can get it started again. If you can see, it actually has strings in it, so it works really great. I'm going to set that to the side over here so I can use it in a minute. It is Tape It reinforced stripping tape. I buy it from the Dollar Tree, but it works great on covers with the strings in it. It gives it a lot of support. So it works sort of like Tyvek if you don't have Tyvek. Okay, and then I'm going to take my spine and I'm going to line it up by eye, and I needed about 1/8 of an inch. You can measure this if you want to. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. And I'm going to make sure it's straight and even. And then, you know, if I want to get in there and measure to see if, you know, that my roller fits right in there on both sides. So I'm doing just about perfect. And then I'm going to go ahead and fold these ends over on here. And then I do both sides, because I want to make sure that I have that strength in there. So I'm going to put this right over top. And we'll go back over and burnish in a minute. And this is going to be hidden, so you're not going to be able to tell the tape is under it. I try to keep a nice start off that, because if you don't, it's really hard to get started. So, okay. And then I'll fold that over. And fold that over. And I'll go through and burnish with my bone folder. You can use your scissor handles, whatever you're using, ruler, whatever. Okay, then I'm going to take my bone folder and sort of just rub it in between there, sort of connecting those two pieces, and I'll flip it over and do the same thing. That sort of makes them adhere to each other. So that's going to create a really nice fine corner, and it's going to have that protective tape over it to keep it from ripping apart. Okay, so flip this over and put our tape on this side. Again, I'll push it down sort of as I go. Pull it tight. And if you pull this really tight at the end when you cut it, it's a whole lot easier. It keeps it from sort of... I will tell you, when it comes in this little dispenser with the cutter. You can try to use that. I have more issues with it using it than if I don't. And again, I'm going to burnish. And see, it comes right up off that mat, which makes it nice. I'm going to grab my other cover. Try not to stick it to itself like I just did. It will pull apart. You just have to sort of be careful, because it is tape, and you know, tape doesn't like to do that. Okay, so I am going to line this up again about my 1/8 of an inch away. Guesstimate it, or you can measure it. Like I said, that's up to you how specific you want to be. I'm going to pull my ends up. And I mean, you can, you know, if you're doing this, like, okay, I'll do it. Like, if I'm doing it down here, I could put, you know, this up here, put the ruler against my spine, and then bed it up so I know exactly it's the same distance once you've done it, you know, a couple times, you sort of get that somewhat figured out. And like I said, this tape is from the Dollar Tree. It's $1 a roll. So, you know, it's pretty fairly economical, so I don't worry about using if I use a lot of it. And then when I get done with it, like now, just fold the end over, and you've got an automatic start the next time you go to pick it up instead of having to search for the end. Some people never think about that. Okay, let me lift this up. Flip it over, up. And it, you know, if it's against that tape, so it will come up. It won't, when it's against the paper, after you've burnished it down, it's pretty tight. And if you do get wrinkles in it like that, which I did, if you burnish it really well, those wrinkles disappear on the tape. You can see them, but you cannot feel them. So, but with the style cover that I'm doing, that's really not going to make a big difference. Okay. And then again, stick those down really good. I'm going to go back over this again. Flip it over. Go over both sides down in that crack. Okay. So you've got that nice, really, really nice spine on there. And it's got that extra support where it's, I mean, it's pretty sturdy. Okay, so we got that part done. Now I'm going to do something completely weird, probably to some people. I don't know, maybe not. I will be using Distressed Oxide, my regular vintage photo, and my walnut stain today, just so you know. Okay, so I have that. Okay, this is masking paper. I get mine at Menards. It's like $2 for this massive roll, so you have tons of it. It's really thin. It's almost like tissue paper. You can actually run it through your printer and print on it like you do tissue paper. But I'm gonna trim this off so it's a little straighter. I need to find my big scissors. I think they got carried off to wrap Christmas presents. Okay. And you can keep that for scrap. But and this is just about wide enough that it gives you about, oh, I would say about 1.5 inches overlap. So I pull it about, make sure you guys come on. I pull it about to where I have about 1.5 inches overlap on the end. Roll it out the other side. Oh. And then what I do is I give it about 3 inches on this end. And I'll explain why in a little bit. You may want to go 4. It's always better to have more, and if you're doing it the first time, you may need a little more. Okay. So you can put that paper up for right now. We'll get back to it in a minute. Or, well, we probably won't, because I'm actually going to use some on the inside. Okay, then we're going to take our paper, and we're just going to wad it up. Yes, I know, right? Totally crazy. But I'm going to wad it up. And I'm going to wad it up pretty good. Pretty tight. Compact it pretty tight. Right? Okay. And then I'm going to unroll it. Okay. And I'm going to pull it out. I'm not going to flatten it all the way. I'm not going to like roll it and get all the wrinkles out. I'm just going to, you know, very lightly sort of slide my hands across it and extend it out. Okay. Okay. So, here we go. Now, let me find, I set my stuff to the side here so I would have it, and then move it. Now, I'm actually going to glue the sides, but my spine, I sort of want to make sure that it's like reinforced a little bit better. So I'm going to use, it's really, really thin. I'm going to use the carpet tape that I use for my DIY washi, since I already have it anyway. You can use glue if you want to. I just use this because I have it already from doing the washi. Let me get it started and get it pulled off. And again, that's going to create that other fabric layer along your spine, which is going to help reinforce for when you put your signatures in. So I just find it sort of reinforces it, and I like it being reinforced, so it's sturdy. Make sure to stick that down there. And then I just pull the paper off of it. Once I can get it started, it's going to act crazy now. Well, save time, use your pokey tool. I know, I know. Okay. Okay. Then I'm just going to cut this off, and it will get sticky on your scissors, so make sure you're using scissors. You don't care if they get sticky. And if you only have one pair of scissors and you happen to use them and they get sticky, just use some alcohol, it'll pull it off. I'm not even going to worry about that that well. That's going to be small. And I mean, technically you can just push it under because you are going to wrap the paper around, so I'm just more particular, I guess. It's just my thing. Okay. So I'm going to hold my thing, figure out about where the middle of my paper is. Okay. And I always like to turn mine sideways. That's just, and I try to even it out where I have, you know, about the same on the top and bottom. So, you know, I have like that 1.5 inches on top and bottom. And I stick it down. And then burnish. Okay. Okay, and technically you could use the carpet tape on the whole entire thing if you wanted to, but I tend to use Modge Podge. I do use it on the where I have the tape, just because I want to make sure that that tape is adhered really well. And I mean, technically, it depends on, I like having the strings in there to reinforce mine. Technically, you could use your carpet tape that we use to make our DIY washi. Technically, you could use it. Leave the paper backing on until you're adhering it down. Okay, so find my brush, and hopefully I didn't carry it off somewhere because I have a habit of doing it. Well, I don't want to use that little bitty one. I've carried it off, you guys. Oh, nope, there it is. Okay, and this is our DIY Modge Podge. And I'm just going to coat that board. I'm going to make sure, you know, I don't get it all on the inside and stuff because I don't want to deal with extra mess. But I'm going to put a nice coat of it on there. And this, again, is our DIY Modge Podge. You can use... you could use Fabri-Tac. I wouldn't suggest using art glitter glue because it dries super fast, but a lot of people do. Fabri-Tac you can use Eileen's Tacky Glue. I've used it. I mean, I've used various things. I really like Modge Podge. I just like the look and the feel of it and the way it just does, I guess. And I'm just going to go right over the edge of where that tape is because I want to make sure everything's adhered. And I mean, technically you can go over where the tape is if you just want like that extra layer of protection. Okay, so you just coat it like that. Not a lot to it. And then again, I'm just going to sort of hold my paper out flat. I'm just going to flop it down. And I'm going to push it like that. Let it adhere, and we're going to get to it in just a second. So we're going to hurry and do this one. And yes, you can put a big gloop like that and just move it around, which is what I usually do. But I was trying to be a little bit less messy with being on camera. Plus, if you're just starting out, I know you're scared. You don't know exactly how much to pour on there to spread it to get everything covered, where if you've did it for a while, you sort of know how much it takes. Even by the brush full. Okay, let's get this covered. Let me get this on there. And again, you know, this is just going to be a basic cover underneath, and then we'll decorate. Okay, we have that. I'm going to go ahead and goob that up. Although this isn't going to matter because we're going to go back through there. I'm just going to, I don't like the big gollops on there. Okay. And I always keep, yes, my same Groby rag that I wash, and I reuse the same one, so I'm not ruining one until it's gone and I can't use it. Then again, I'm going to put that on there. I'm going to take my rag and sort of wipe up where I have this Modge Podge up here, just to sort of dry it, so when I flip it over, I'm not adhering to my table. Okay, then you're going to flip over. You flip over, and you're pretty much just going to burnish, but you're not going to burnish. You're just going to rub across to make sure it has contact. Actually, use your hands. It's probably better if you haven't done it. And then you're just going to sort of put pressure, but you don't want to get rid of all of them. You want to leave the cracks in there. And if you have an area like right up here in the corner, I can tell mine's sort of not sticking the way I like it to. Or if it seems like it's coming up, then I'll just throw some Modge Podge on there, and we're going again. I sort of go over all the corners usually. That's just one of my quirks. Hopefully you can, and I don't do anything spectacular. I just literally mob it on there. I'm actually going to see if I can pull this up a little bit and sort of crinkle it a little bit more, because I sort of want a little bit more, and you can do that if you want more crinkles. You can just sort of wad it up with your fingers. And just make sure you adhere it down. Okay, and our spine feels good. Okay, feels good, guys. Now, you can, I always sort of fold mine, sort of fold it over, just to make sure it's gonna stretch. So you don't, that's why you don't want to pull that super tight, and with the wrinkles, while it's wet, you have room that you can put it on there. Okay. So, let's glue up. I'm actually just going to put the glue on the paper back here, which is another reason that I use the cutting mat. And I do mine a little different than some people do, so, you know, to each his own. That's just the way I do it. And I go ahead and glue it all and get it ready, so when I get ready to go, I can go. And I do this, I do the same thing when I do fabric, except instead of like wadding it up to create all the wrinkles, I just put it on there flat. But it's the same exact process. I will put a, the one I'm doing in, when I do the floral one, it's actually going to have a fabric-based cover, not a paper-based cover. And I do make sure as I'm going around gluing these that I'm getting the insides of those corners too. And then I sort of always come back over here to the end and sort of hit where I did, just to make sure it's nice and tacky. Okay, and then I grab my straight end from the center and just sort of push it on, and then just sort of push it up, and I don't worry about it wrinkling or anything like that. And I'll grab the top and do the top, because I tend to like to do things assembly line style. You know, the less times I have to lift up scissors and this, that, and the other. So, okay, that looks like it's adhered pretty good. Okay, then I pull up, and what I do is I go from where this corner's folded over, I go there, and I go and I stop about 1/8 of an inch right above. And that's just something that I do. Then I grab my glue, and this is already glued down where I have my glue on there. So I throw some glue on there, and you've got a little time doing this. I push this in just a hair. Let me go over here and do this one too really fast. Okay, so again, I'm going to go in where it lands, and I'm going to go about 1/8 of an inch up. I'm going to throw some glue on there. I just find this easier. I know a lot of people miter corners and they still struggle with. I just do this. I don't know what works for me, so I just fold that over just a tad bit, just like a pinch at the bottom, just like this one. So as I'm pinching those, then I grab it, I go up in the middle, and I just start pushing it up, pushing the end. And just push it up there. And it creates really, for me at least, it works. I get really nice mitered corners. And if you happen to, like, I'd bump that, but that's going to be covered, so it's not going to matter. Okay, I'm going to start up here and just, and if it's not even, it's fine, because it's going to be covered. So, I think a lot of people stress sometimes that it all has to be perfect. Most of it's covered. You'd be surprised, you know. Again, I'm going to glue that corner down really well. And I will be pausing in just a second because I gotta my husband get him up for work. So, okay. Then flip that in. Flip that in a bit. Put some glue here on the edge. And I mean, like I said, you could have cut this down some. I wanted to make sure that you have enough because I don't usually do this much. I usually do, you know, about 1.5 inches, like I said. But if it's the first time doing it, you may need that extra, you know, to, okay, so I'm going to push that there, push it up, and again, I'm going to push it up, and honestly, this paper is almost like a really thin version of like your grocery sack bags, if you remember, you know, the paper grocery sack bags. And then see where that came loose. That's not really going to bother me. Actually, most of it looks really good. I'm going to put a little bit over here under this edge where it looked like it didn't quite. And you can do that. And I just sort of rub it. You know, hit all those little corners if you want to, now that you've got it glued down. Just to sort of add some extra support on the corners. And like I said, this is just the way that I sort of do it. I know everybody does it differently. And if you have edges that aren't tucked down, you can just hit it with a little Modge Podge and it'll go right down, even though we will be covering this, so. Okay, so there's the outside of our cover. And then the inside. The inside of our covers, I actually think what do I want to use? I'm thinking I want to use coffee dyed paper. I have this already folded, but no, maybe I don't want to because it's gonna, I don't like that. Okay, let me pause you and find what I want to use exactly in the middle. Okay, I'm back. I found this green cardstock. I've had it forever, and it's just in a really pretty green. So I have Modge Podge all over my fingers. So I'm gonna put my Modge Podge lid on really fast because I'm too weird about tipping it over everywhere. And that's the last thing I want is Modge Podge everywhere. So we're gonna put this again. We need 6 by 9. I have a bent corner right there, so I'm gonna cut my 9 off of that corner over there. Just, well, actually, I'm gonna cut it off at 9.5 and cut the other end off too, just so I know it's cut straight. You know what? I actually want to go 1/8 an inch in. So I'm actually going to do 8 3/4. 8 3/4, and then I want to do them at 5 3/4 wide. These will be the inside, and then 5 3/4. And then I'm going to use a hold on a second, I'm trying to grab my red. Then for the spine part, I need it at 9, so I'm going to cut it at 9 1/4 and then cut 1/4 inch off. Just so I know it's straight, because sometimes cardstock isn't straight. And then I'm going to cut it off at 9. Okay, and then I want to do my spine at, I'm going to cut my 1/4 inch off. So I'm going to cut a 1/2 inch off. I can use it, you know. I want to cut my spine. It's 2 inches, 3, 4. Let's do 5. That'll give us some extra room to play with for our spine. And so I use the red and green, which is sort of the vintage color. And I like it. Okay. Now, before we go to this step, we've got it cut. We can actually go ahead and ink it if we want, and have that already done, ready to go when we get finished. I like inking it. You don't have to, you know, if you're using a solid cardstock that doesn't have white in it, but, and this is actually Stampin' Up. It's a red and a green. Don't ask me what colors they are, because that has been way too long ago for me to remember. It was just a standard red and a standard, there's like sort of olive green. This is actually going to be underneath, but and I'm actually going to do a hidden spine on this one. I'm doing a hidden spine because I want to actually do a Christmas dangle with a bunch of jewels and stuff on the outside. So, okay. So those are inked up, ready to go. Okay, so while we have our ink open, I'm going to flip over on my cover. I'm going to take my ink pad, turn it upside down, and I'm just going to run it across my just run it across, randomly hitting spots. Do it around the sides. And this is with the Distressed Oxide in Vintage Photo. Okay, so, and then I'll go through some places and just sort of hit it really hard. Sort of randomly, sort of creating colors. Okay, then I'm going to take my small vintage photo, not the oxide, just the regular, and I'm going to sort of go over, you know, random spots. Just not everywhere, just random. I'm going to hold this, and I'm really going to run it down my spine edges here, because it's darker. Maybe around the bottom of my spine, the top of your spine, you know, around the edges where you know. And I do layer my edges up because I like them, you know, having that old vintagey. Hopefully I'm doing that where you guys can see that really well. So let me hold it up right now and let you see what it's like. So that's what it looks like. Okay, so I've used my oxide and my vintage photo, so I'm going to pick up my walnut stain. Now, my walnut stain is dark. This is going to be more towards like the center. You're going to have your darker where it's not all faded and worn, so I sort of do it towards the center where you're going to have the darker color. I do some down the spine, I just literally, and you don't have to do a lot, it doesn't take a lot, just a few little. And I do sweep my corners sort of in a curve. You know, like, because your corners are going to get, okay? So that's what we have. So now, before we start, we're going to turn over. And I'm going to do the same thing on the inside with this. Just because you don't want, you know, a secondary look. And I just sort of go around with this. Just around. And if you have, you know, places that catch more, that's fine. It'll all blend together in a minute. And then I just sort of, I don't worry as much in here. Okay, I'm going to ink this up, and then I'm going to pause it, and I will be right back. I gotta wake my husband up, and then I'll be back. And again, I'll hit the curves with the walnut stain. There you go. So, and you can take your blender brush and just sort of blend it around. You know, that's going to create, you know, cover some of those inside spots that you don't have it in. Okay. Then I'm going to use my brush here, and I'm going to hold on just a second. Because I am using Distress, I'm going to spray a little water on it. Not a lot, just mist it. I'm going to take my blender brush because it will dry. And I'm just going to run it across there. Okay, so now that I'm going to do that while I'm letting that dry, I'm going to pause this and go get him ready. And I'll be right back. Okay guys, I am back. I am so sorry about that. You know how them men are. No, my husband's really great. He usually gets himself up without any issue, so. Okay, but he had to go in early today, so I'm actually going to use just my straight vintage photo, not my oxide, because I want to darken this up some, so, and I'm going to ink over top of it with my ink blender now. So I sort of create the base, then go in with my ink blender and just, you know, add a little darker color over top of it. not everywhere, just, you know, I just want to create that old leathery look. And I know I do a lot of inking on here. That's just me. You know, I really like the darker look. And I mean, and you can, you know, take your little inker over top of it after you do that and just literally cover it with your vintage photo, not the oxide, just the regular vintage photo. You know, so I mean, you could keep it like that. I mean, I really like that. It sort of has the old, more marbly effect to it. I can go in and just sort of, after I do that, sort of hit it with my blender, because we all know that ink blends. Sort of smear it around a little bit so it's not as dark, right? You can drop a little bit of water, not a lot, just a little, and sort of smear it around, and that'll darken it in too. Sort of give it more of that orangey look, but it'll still keep a lot of that ink. So like that, I really like the look of that, so I think I'm going to stop there with mine. But like, you can see the difference between here and this. That is a big difference in the coloring. So if you want the light, you can do that. I sort of really like that. Now, that tape is coming through, is showing through because of how thin this paper is. If you want to use a thicker paper, you can if that bothers you, or don't use tape. You could actually glue. You know, use your Tyvek. Your Tyvek is still going to show. I'm not worried about that because I'm going to have dangles coming down the middle of the spine, and, you know, sort of having that crease down the middle of the spine, I think, sort of cool. To me, it sort of creates that raised look. And as far as these out here, a lot of books have, you know, that secondary cover. Now, if you want to get by or get away with that and that not show through, I'm going to stand this up while I have it stood up and put this up there, because these are my cracks that are going to get a lot. I am going to go over with my walnut stain real heavy. Again, I over ink, maybe that's just me. If you don't like that, then feel free not to do that. I just want that darker look even around the outside edges. So I'm going to go around all of my edges with that walnut stain. And again, if you have, you know, a little bit of water, if you don't want to spray water on your cover, which, I mean, I can understand if you don't want to do that, that's fine. You may be unsure, especially if you're new. Get a little saucer, you know, to put water in. I wish I had, I do, here's one. Now, at our Myers, they have, and I don't remember what brand it is, but you would have to look. And you could probably find, I don't know if you can find them any, but they have almost like a gourmet cheesecakes. Little cheesecakes you can buy in the freezer section back by like yogurt and that kind of stuff. But anyway, they're little mini cheesecakes. They actually come in glass dishes. I found a bunch on clearance for like $1, and my kids will eat the cheesecake. My husband will. Oh, I mean, I will too, but so we ate the cheesecakes, and I bought like 6 of them. So now I have all these really neat little jars that are great for like putting a little water in with a brush, or, you know, glue, or, you know, if I need a certain amount of paint, I can put paint in there, you know, or whatever. So I mean, it really, really, they work really nice. Okay. So, okay, I think I'm happy with my outside cover. I really like it. Now, it will still dry because I put water on it, so as it dries, it will lighten up a little bit, but not a whole lot less than what it is here. Now, if you don't like that, don't use the walnut stain. Go in with lighter colors, or if you want a red, you know, you can do that. or you can brush it with, you know, add a little coloring to your Mod Podge. Or you could use any kind of re-inker that you want, or, you know, use any color tissue paper. If you want pink, you know, use a pink tissue paper or whatever. So I'm going to go in with, I'm going to spray a little bit of water in my little bowl because I don't want to spray the inside because this doesn't have anything on it really. So I'm just going to spray it in my little bowl and just dab. And then I'm going to go through, let me get a little more ink. And, you know, you can use your re-inker. And this is actually going to be covered, so I'm not going to stress a whole lot about most of it. I just want to make sure, like, those edges sort of match the other side. And I will go around with the walnut stain. And again, because when I cut my papers to go on the inside, I cut them so they would be like 1/8 of an inch. So, you know, I'm just going to have this small area sticking out, but I want to make sure, you know, that it sort of matches the other side more. Oh, and I just hit that with the walnut stain. Oh well, it'll darken it up, I guess. We'll blend it in. You put a little bit of my vintage photo on there because it's a different brown, so it creates a whole different look. So yeah, where I was goofing around with this earlier and that little tear was by the tape, and I said it wouldn't matter. My paper will, you know, cover the inside of that. Okay, I am going to grab my walnut stain and go around my edges, on the outside edges, and right on the inside, just to follow through, because, I mean, you don't want one part looking one way and the other part looking the other. Okay, so there we go. So I need to let this dry, so I'm going to turn the camera off long enough to let this dry, and then I will come back and we'll put the front panels on each side. Then we'll start setting up and getting our, you know, poker holes that we need to prep our hidden spine and all of that, get that ready. Yep, that's it. I'm trying to decide if, I actually think, trying to decide if I want to put my hidden spine out over top. No, I think I'm going to put my hidden spine. We'll put our hidden spine in before we put our pages down. Yep. We will, just in case if it's a little crooked or whatever. So I'm going to set this up on its end, let it dry, and I'll be back. Okay guys, I am back. It's had time to dry, so I'm going to move to the next step. I love the way it came out. So you can see how it came out dried, the coloring of it, and the inside, which isn't too shabby itself. So I need to, let me move my stuff out of the way over here. Find my rag, and I need to grab my Modge Podge brush. Now you have an option here. The DIY Modge Podge that I make is a, what is the word I'm looking for? It's a matte. Wow. It's a matte Modge Podge. You can use matte, which sort of creates that leathery look, or you can use gloss, which sort of creates a leather look, a shined leather look. So you have your option. I'm going to use our DIY. That's just my preference. I do have regular Modge Podge, but I actually like the DIY stuff. It's a little thicker for me, I think. So yeah, I'm just going to do a nice even coat. It doesn't have to be crazy, just a nice even coat. And then when we get it finished, I will hit it with a hairdryer. However, you have to be extremely careful. I would suggest, if you're new, and you have not done it before, that you set it up on its end and just let it dry. Do not try to blow dry it if you're really new, because you can cause it to bubble and cause issues with it. If you've done it before, I keep a really far distance with mine. I'll keep you on video when I dry mine because it doesn't take that long. But yeah, I would suggest, and I don't do a heavy coat, and I try to go back over where the wrinkles are so you don't have like a lot pulled up. I just like that thinner coat, like down in my little, and it will smear your ink some, so not a lot, so you may want to put your Modge Podge into a different, like in one of the little glass things, or pour it into something like that if you're worried about it. I've never really had it alter the color of my Modge Podge, so I don't worry about it. I know some people tend to worry more about that, so there's that. And like I said, it does alter it a little bit because, as you know, Modge Podge does have water in it, which does affect the distress ink. So if you think it's a little dark, this will lighten it up some. So do be aware of that. You don't have to Modge Podge it. I do because I like that extra layer of protection on mine. That's just me. Like I said, if you're making it for yourself and you don't really care, you don't have to put the Modge Podge on it, and it'll keep that nice darkness. Another option is, I put a little bit more ink on than what you, if you're going to put ink on it, put a little more ink on it than what you want. Because it will, or, don't use the oxide, just use, the regular. That will help some. Now the Distress Oxide will have that green look, like if you can see sort of the green. And, I wanted that. So, that's, I wasn't too worried about like my front and my back cover, even though they have a slight green tinge to them too now, because of the oxide and the vintage photo. So I don't use, if I'm making a cover, and say I'm doing a nature journal, or like this, where, I have the green with Christmas and stuff, so it doesn't bother me to have that green undertone to it, then I don't worry about it. If I'm doing a journal and it has no green in it whatsoever, then I do not use the Distress Oxide. I just use the vintage photo, so you get more of that like sepia appearance without the green undertone. So the walnut stain really does the green and the Distress Oxide both, so you have to be aware of. So what I would do is get you an old notebook, like a little mixed media book, put your ink on, and then do your ink plain with nothing on it. Do your ink with Modge Podge on it. Do your ink on it with with your gesso under the bottom. Do it with everything that you could possibly put on it that could alter the appearance of it. Put it on there and run it. Now I'm gonna, and just do it on, do a page for each one, or for each ink. I'm actually inking up the ends. I'm not going to do the back side yet because I will catch that, and be careful touching it because you'll leave a fingerprint in it. So, but I do want to make sure that my ends are covered too, because obviously they're going to get more wear and tear than anything. Up, and here comes a train. You would not think there would be a train coming through at 5 o'clock in the morning, but there is. And again, I just do a nice coat and make sure there's not any big gobs hanging off the edge or anything. And then I just sort of go around the edge where I just went around the edge, because you will have some that'll, you know, get on the front. I don't worry about what's on the back. We'll deal with that when we get there. No need to stress over. Okay, so I'm gonna put my brush in water right now and cover my Mod Podge because I don't want it. Now I am going to turn a dryer on, so you will hear it. Again, this is a heated tool, not an hair dryer. When I do it, and this is just me, little gooby on there. I hold it about 8 to 10, maybe 12, yeah, somewhere between 8 to 12 inches away, depending on whatever, and continually keep it moving. Do not stop it in one place because you will cause your Mod Podge to bubble. So I literally just keep it moving. If you hold it in one spot for too long, or you hold it too close, you will cause it to bubble. You can cause the glue under your paper, which, you know, is Mod Podge. Even though it's dry, when the top goes through there, it sort of re-wets it a little bit. And it can cause that, and I will do it like that for a little bit. And then here in a minute, before it completely dries, I will flip it up on its side and sort of bend it so the spine doesn't dry flat where it will crack and flake or anything like that, because, you know, obviously it's going to be bending, although it does pretty well. And it doesn't take long, and I just literally keep moving it. Okay, I'm going to stick it on its side, and again, I'll stay back from it. Hopefully you guys can hear me over the dryer. So I'm saying, oh, about a good 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 inches away, you know, sort of bouncing around. I mean, if you do get a little bit closer, it's okay. You just can't stay close. You just need to continually be bouncing around so you don't create that. And this will create, your boards will be a little bit, they'll almost look like they're warped a little bit. You can flatten those out, so don't stress about that. And again, if you do not want to dry it, you just stand it up on its end like this, you know, leave it for an hour or two, it'll dry and you'll be good when you come back. And again, I'm going to tighten it up a little bit. I'm going to sort of flip it around a little bit. And it will create like an old, sort of an old look. Now you can go over with gesso around the edges and sort of age the edges if you want. I'm not going to do that. I really want to keep mine with the brown. You can put metal corners on it. You know, there's a ton of things you can do to basically customize it to what you want it to be. Let me turn back around here. And I just keep, now that we've had it bent like that, it does pretty good. I'm going to actually lay it back down so I can sort of see what's going on. And there'll be shiny places, you know, where maybe it's a little thicker than the others, and you'll just have to dry those. It's doing pretty good. It doesn't take super long to dry it. You know, it's just one of those things. We will be putting the cover on it, just in case. Figure out what our cover looks like. This is what our cover looks like. So I'm really excited to use it. And then I have another cover piece, but I'm not putting on the back. I'm going to keep the back solid. You can put a back on it, but I don't want to put it, I just sort of wanted to keep mine solid. So I'm going to use it on the inside as a tuck on the front cover. And then I am going to use, on the very last page, I want to create a pocket out of fabric, a fabric pocket, and I'm going to use my carpet tape to do that and some coffee dyed paper. Okay, I think we're good. I'm going to flip it over. I'm going to grab my Modge Podge brush and my Modge Podge again. Now you have to be really careful when you do this because obviously you don't want to cake it up on your front. And you may have somewhere goobered on the table or something. You just wipe that off. It's not a big deal. Okay. And again, I'm going to do just a light coating. And remember, this is going to be covered. So we literally just have to do like, you know, a ½ inch around the edge. You don't have to do the whole thing because the rest of it will be covered. And you don't have to do a massively thick coating. Sometimes you get those dried Modge Podge type things in there where it's dried on the side of the lid or whatever. And you want to go make sure you go over your corners real good because that again will help keep those corners down. So I don't do it thick, but I do a nice coating. I don't want that to stick on the front, so hopefully, I don't know if you guys can see me or not. It's sort of hard when working with something this wide. Okay. Move it over here. And again, we're just gonna paint it on there, and I just sort of streak it till I can get a light coat. And you know, if the lines come through, then just sort of, will pretty much be hidden. Okay, let me go across the bottom. And you know, if you do a little bit bigger than an inch, it's not going to matter because when we dry it in a minute, it'll be dried. If you have any questions about any of the steps, if I didn't make something clear or whatever, make sure you comment and, you know, I'll be sure to answer. So that can go in my water because I'm done with it. I'm done with Modge Podge on this journal. No more Modge Podge necessary. Okay, so we're gonna run the room, and we don't have to tilt it or anything this time, so it'll go pretty fast because we can just lay it flat. There's a puddle in there, so. And again, if you have puddles, you can sort of wipe them down a little bit, thin them down a little. So I hope everybody's enjoyed, you know, this whole process. I will get this done, and then I'll come back for the binding process in a video. Then we'll cover the covers, or decorate the cover in a video. And we'll create a little dangle. I'm not going to do anything majorly extravagant, but I just do want to do something really cute. I mean, it's Christmas. It's got to be cute, right? And yes, I realize I'm holding this a little closer than what you're supposed to. It's because I'm trying to hurry, but that's why I'm not stopping at any point, and I keep rotating around a lot. Okay. There's a few wet spots on the top, but I think we'll be okay. Because I'll just set it to the side while we bind anyway, so that'll give it the rest of it time to just around the outside edges a little. Not too bad. Okay, so after it dried, this is what it looks like. And there's the back. So it's a really nice, and it's nice, sturdy with the chipboard. So it sort of has the used streaks, you know, where it's, which I did that. Those streaks I did with walnut stain. And I'll sort of show you how I did that. Let me get my scrap. I just sort of take it, and how your ink pad has that little slide on it, if you hold it by its side, you just sort of slide it, and it sort of creates those streaky lines. And you can sort of streak, you know, it sort of adds that to it. Now, you could use our shimmer glue over top of it. If you don't want to use Modge Podge, you can make a batch of it up and use it. I have some shimmer in mine, and I'll tell you why. Because I used the same brush, and I didn't really wash it out really good. But I don't mind the shimmer. I mean, there's some all over it. I don't know if you can see the glittery shimmer. And that was just where it was left over in my brush, and I didn't, you know, wash my brush out really great. I actually just threw it in water and then, you know, rinse the water out of it and went. So I do have a little bit of glitter. You could use your shimmer over top of it, and it would add that shimmer, which would sort of give a Christmassy feel to it. But this is our cover right now. So we're going to set it to the side. I'm going to come back to do all of the binding video. Then we'll come back, we'll decorate. Well, we'll do all the prep work on the spine for the dangle. We'll have the stuff bound, so we will actually put it in there during the binding process. We will add the side pages, the pocket, the fabric pocket for the back, the tuck for the front, and we'll be good to go. So right now, this is how far we've got, so I will let you go. We will be back again. Remember to like, comment, subscribe. There won't be any links other than the Facebook group, Etsy, and all that, because I really didn't use anything here. I will link the DIY Modge Podge recipe that we use if anybody wants to use it. And I'll link the shimmer if anybody wants to use that, you know, just as an added benefit. So, okay, I will let you go, and I will see you back later for our binding video. Have a great day. Bye.